everyone. Um, I know that I've at this point said it's not worth being like, oh my gosh, it's been so long. The number of times I've tried to film this, I filmed it at the end of January, and then I attempted to film it, and it just, life has been busy. That's really all I can say. I don't even know the last video I uploaded. I haven't checked since attempting this. I may have done a wrap up of the end of 2024. I don't know. I believe I finished out the year with 42 books, which was great. But this is all of the books that I have read so far in 2025, which is 7 books total. I've read a couple other like ebooks and stuff, but that I never really talk about those in my wrap-ups here. But I've read 7 books in 3 months, which isn't great, but it's not horrible. And most of these I read in January, to be perfectly honest. I think I read all of these, yes, except for the most recent one. I read all of these in January. It's been busy, and I just haven't had the desire to read in the same way. So hopefully in the next day or two, I can also get a TBR filmed for at least April, May-ish. Maybe I'll do both months in the same thing. I don't know if this will be edited, so this might be incredibly long. It might be super cut up and snappy. I have no idea how I'm gonna feel. But without further ado, let's get into the books. I also will do a separate video at some point talking about doing the 2025 Read Harder Challenge, which I've attempted the last few years. I feel really good about this year so far. I've only read a couple books to put towards it, and I have to read 24. I might be able to combine a couple of challenges, but I feel really good about this year's challenges and like the length of book required to help me get through to what needs to be done. So let's talk about all the books I've read so far, because I enjoyed all of them. All right, so the first book that I read in 2025 was The Landscapes of Anne of Green Gables by Catherine Reed. This is a coffee table book almost, but it talks about Prince Edward Island and what L.M. Montgomery based Avonlea around, and the pictures. So the book is laid out in like sections with like a super pretty like script section with like a floral side, and then there's just gorgeous pictures throughout this book, like of the landscape and the flowers and all sorts of things. And the book itself is beautiful. Like, I would take the dust jacket off and leave it. There's also a beautiful drawn map inside. It's fantastic. I learned more about L.M. Montgomery's life in this book, and that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting more just talking about like the world. But I learned more about her and her life and her struggles. And so it was a lovely, lovely book to start off 2025. Perfectly honest. I'm gonna try this again and put them there. So yeah, absolutely loved that book. The next book that I was able to complete was finally The Chalice of the Gods by Rick Riordan. I now have the second book that came out, and I have a couple more books to get caught up on Rick Riordan's books, but I'm so close to being caught up. This was just fun to be back in Percy's world, and read through this and just kind of fall back into his headspace in a new book. So this was just an overall fun read. So highly recommend Rick Riordan, Percy Jackson fans to read all of his new books. And then I started the wonderful, wonderful Empyrean series. It's been long awaited. I was hopeful that I would be able to read both books before the new one came out. Spoiler alert, you'll see in the thumbnail, I did. I flew through these books. So the first of those books is The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And Fourth Wing was so good. And just phenomenal. I loved kind of getting introduced into the world in a way that made sense. Got to know a portion of the characters, and it was very much like learning through Violet's eyes and getting to know the universe a little bit, getting to know the professors and all those things. And so it's helpful having a narrator who's also new and also doesn't know where everything is, to kind of intro into the story. Absolutely loved this book. Because then came Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame in like 96 hours, like 4 days ish. Fourth Wing took me, I believe, 2 days, 2 or 3 days, and then Iron Flame took me like a day and a half. I started it, could not put it down, stayed up way too late on a Sunday night, and or maybe it was even it was a work night. Stayed up way too late, but I had to finish it. I was at a point I was like, I have to finish this book, and then I had to wait 3 weeks. Nothing compared to what everybody else had to wait, but then I had to wait 3 weeks, and it was torture. But it gave some time for some theories to have happened and to have a little bit of time to settle into the world and figure out where the next book could lead us. So then I had a little bit of time. So I read the illustrated edition of The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This book, I'll talk more about The Hunger Games at some other later point. Anyway, it was so nice to get back into the original story. It has been so long since I've reread the original trilogy. The last time I reread them in entirety was right before Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And so it's been 3 or 4 years since I've reread the trilogy in its entirety, so I really only watched the movies, so I forgot some of the things that only happened in the book. And the pictures are so beautiful, but also heart-wrenching, because you're seeing things that aren't necessarily shown in the movies. There's like 12 or 15, at least, pictures and artwork in here. Let me see if I can find one of them here. Here is Katniss and Rue in the arena, and it's the same font and everything from the original trilogy and all the things, but absolutely phenomenal. And they're doing, it seems, all of them, because Catching Fire comes out sometime this year, I think. But it was so nice to just kind of like get back into the world and prepare for the newer Hunger Games book, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. But both my last 2 books that I've read are both new releases within the last 3 months. The first of which is Onyx Storm. I can't say anything specifically about this book because it will lead to spoilers. At some point I may do a full spoiler review of the series so far. I did get the initial deluxe edition, pre-order, all the things. That is super interesting. The original 2 books are like lighter physically because like their pages are different, and I don't know if it's because of the sprayed edge or what, but this book is physically and literally dense. So much happens in this book. I personally think this book could have been 2 books because there's so much that happens. Like, I went back, I finished it and immediately started rereading it, and I forgot that I was like, wait, this was all in this book. There's so much that happens. I have a friend who we are going to sit down and kind of make a, like, put together something that makes sense for us of all of the professors and dragons and whose dragon is whose and all the different characters and their things, so that we can keep track of who is who, because there were so many times where we did not and could not remember, wait, who is this professor? We'd have to look it up. Who is this person? I cannot remember. Like, I know we know them, but it's been like they are maybe a side character and now they're a more main character or whatever. I can't remember who is who, and I can never keep the dragons straight, unfortunately. I just can't. So I want to have some sort of something that makes sense for both of us to, like, refer back to for when we're reading the 4th and 5th book in the series, whenever they come out in like 2027, it sounds like, which is fine. But I know that some people have an issue with these books and don't think that they're as fantastic as everybody says. I think I've figured out pieces after, like, watching some TikToks and things, and I think I've figured out that the reason, like, it seems like people who don't like her books are people who prefer high fantasy and major world building and a magic focus or a fae focus or those types of books, where Rebecca Yarros is a romance writer first, a fantasy writer second. And I think she does a fantastic job of world building. I think she does a fantastic job of creating suspense and the politics and all those things, while also adding that romance element in. And I know a lot of people who enjoy high fantasy don't really care about the romance pieces, and they don't look at it as necessary. It's not necessary, but it's fun. So I think it depends on what kind of reader you are. If you are a high fantasy lover and you haven't gotten into these books because you're kind of hearing mixed signals, if you are a high fantasy lover, don't go into these books expecting high fantasy, major magic, major politics, major all these things. All of those pieces are there. There are elements of different forms of a magic, fae, fiend kind of thing. There are elements of politics and the world building and the dynamics of things. There's a lot we still don't know, but it's not what you might be looking for if you are a high fantasy lover. So, but I absolutely loved it. Love all 3 of the books. They're fantastic. Can't wait for the 4th one. And the last book also killed me. I cried here. I cried here. I cried here too, but I cried here. I cried. This book wrecked me. The final book that I have finished in the last 3 months was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I sobbed during the epilogue. I literally closed this book, set it down, and curled up in a ball and sobbed. It is phenomenal. It is important. It is a fantastic read. I tabbed the crap out of it with things that I wanted to remember and look back on. I tabbed it with character references. This book is, I guess I haven't really talked about any of the plot points here. I'll talk about this one. If you don't know, it's been too long since I've done anything. This is, our main character in this book is Haymitch. And it is his games, and we are in the 50th quarter quell, the second quarter quell, the 50th Hunger Games. And so double the tributes are reaped. This book wrecked me. You think you know something and you don't. The big piece of this book that I don't think spoils anything is that because Susie Collins tends to write books when she has something to say about the world. And this makes a comment on not trusting everything you see, and that history is written by the people that write it, and it's not always the whole truth. So there are things that happen in this Hunger Games that you don't see the whole truth of in the original trilogy, which is incredible. Highly recommend. Be prepared, have your tissues, stay hydrated. It is such a good book. I wish I could reread it again for the first time, honestly. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. But yeah, so these are all the books that I've read in the last 3 months. I hope to read more in the next few weeks. I think shortly in the next day or so, I will film some sort of April and May TBR. I'm setting myself up for success because all of April and May are just really busy for me, work-wise and life-wise. So it's already the middle of April effectively now. So I think I will do a TBR for those 2 months so that if I film it in the next few days, even if it gets released a little late, it can still encompass both books or both months. So I have some book club books in there. I haven't read a single book club book this year, which has been great. And yeah, so anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and thanks for sticking around, and I hope to see you soon in the next video. Goodbye.